In this particular session, we're going to be talking about CSS layouts, and basically we're going to consider how to arrange your boxes in relation to the viewport and also in relation to one another. Now that we have covered the basics, let's dive deep into CSS and talk about layouts. Let's look at the different types of modern display settings and positionings. What we have done is to create a folder on our desktop called Flex, and we've created two files within this folder called index.html and main.css. Now that we have this folder opened up in our VS Code, let's go ahead and put in some defaults. Now that we have created our simple boilerplate, the next thing we're going to do is to understand the concept of Flexbox. Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout method that allows you to create and arrange items in rows or columns. The items expand to fill more spaces or contract, which is also to shrink to fit into smaller spaces. Let's see a quick example on how to implement Flexbox layouts in our website. So basically we have 4 paragraphs. I'm going to set a class of container, and we're going to add the flex property to container. Just putting our style on the same page for now. Let's call the container class. Then we had a display of flex. Basically what this is going to do is arrange all the paragraphs on the same line, as you can see. If I zoom in, you tend to see we have the joins just after each paragraph element. Let's add in some space. Now you can see we have a 50px gap in between these items. One thing we could do for better visualization is to first change the color to white. Let's come back to our HTML document. I'm going to reduce the size. Let's refresh. Let's also add a padding. Now you can see what we have. Basically, we've been able to use Flex to align these stuffs by default, even without adding a couple of properties, such as the flex direction. We'll talk about that in a bit. Speaking about the use cases for Flexbox, most times you might want to vertically center a content block within a parent container, or you might want a bunch of items to take up the visible space available, whether it's on the width or height, or you might want to visually group a bunch of items together, either vertically or horizontally. Let me show you a couple of things that you can do here. Looking at our container with the display of flex, we can set a property called flex direction to column. Well, we've been able to change the direction of our flex to column, thereby stacking the paragraphs this way. We could reverse that to row, giving us what we had earlier. The flex direction specifies the direction that our items are arranged. By default, it is set to row, which causes them to be arranged in row, just as you've seen on my screen. But this direction can also be changed to column. The gap attribute is used to set the space in between individual items. The flex wrap property is basically used to ensure that the children within a flex container actually stays within the boundary of that container. I'll show you an example. Let us set flex wrap to wrap. The moment the items try to go beyond the viewport, it will automatically adjust and wrap the items or the children within that container to fit within the boundary of the container. Of course, there are more details to this, but for starters, this is the functionality of the flex wrap property. Let's add the flex basis, and with this, we're going to set 250 pixels. Let's inspect our element on our browser. Let's open the responsive layout view. Now you can see that as I adjust this, it automatically wraps content on the page. This is made possible because we have utilized the flex wrap. Flexbox also has a bunch of other properties that will be shared with you on the Discord server. Flexbox is a great way to implement a couple of components such as the navigation bar and also the footer. These components can also be implemented using the grid layout option, but the Flexbox has proven to be very flexible in respect to the implementation processes. We also have a couple of other properties such as flex flow, and flex flow is basically a combination of flex direction and flex wrap. We will take a look at some of these properties when working on our simple blog implementation. We have a bunch of other properties. We have properties such as align items, properties such as justify content. While working on the next simple blog layout, we are going to try out a bunch of flex properties and we would explain how some of these properties would be used in real-world scenarios.